Welcome to The Reader's Couch, a podcast that brings you lively conversations with some of your favourite authors and bookish personalities. Over here, the couch is always booked, but I've moved some books to the side table and fluffed some cushions so I can welcome a guest or two to come lounge with us. Today on the couch, we have Alexandria Bellefleur, and she's here to talk to me about her latest novel, Count Your Lucky Stars, a steamy queer rom-com about former best friends who might end up being each other's second chance at love. Stay tuned. Hi readers, welcome again to The Reader's Couch. I'm your host, Victoria Wood. And here on the couch with me is a national best-selling author whose debut novel, Written in the Stars, was a 2021 Lambda Literary Award winner. She promptly followed up with her second novel, Hang the Moon. But now she's here to talk to me about her latest novel, Count Your Lucky Stars. Please welcome to the couch, Alexandria Bellefleur. Hey, Alexandria.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yay, I'm super excited to have you here. Thrilled to talk about Count Your Lucky Stars. But before we even get there, how are you feeling? Your book's out there in the world. Readers can get their hands on copies. I know it's your third go around the merry-go-round, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic. 10. It is a little bittersweet since Count Your Lucky Stars is the last book in the series of interconnected rom-coms. So I'm sad to say goodbye to these characters, but I'm very happy that they're out there for readers to hopefully enjoy.
Yes, so even if you are new to Alexandria, new to the series, there are 3 books. The first one, Written in the Stars, was so good. I said to myself, okay, this is my favorite. Then Hang the Moon came around and I'm like, wait. And now this one, Count Your Lucky Stars, I have to say, I think this is maybe my new favorite. It's crazy. But yes, you can get all 3 books now if you want it, or you can start at the beginning like I did. But either way, the books are there. And I'm super excited.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think the third one might be my favorite too. I'm hesitant to say that. I love all my characters, but I do have a soft spot for this one.
Right. Absolutely. I can totally see that. But Alexandria, I want readers to hear from you. Tell us about your new novel, Count Your Lucky Stars, and what can readers expect going in?
Sure, yeah. So Count Your Lucky Stars is the 3rd book in my series of interconnected standalone rom-coms. Like you said, you can start with any of the books or at the beginning. Count Your Lucky Stars is a sapphic second chance, estranged friends to roommates to lovers romance that follows Margot, the last single person in her group of friends, kind of beginning to feel like a bit of a fifth wheel as she is planning her friend's wedding. And while touring wedding venues, she meets the new wedding planner, Olivia, who was Margot's best friend from high school, her first love, her first everything. And they haven't seen each other in over a decade. They have to plan this wedding together. They end up living together when Olivia needs a place to stay. And with all of the, kind of juicy forced proximity, their old feelings come back and they get a second chance at first love. And so I really hope that readers will feel warm, fuzzy feelings when reading this, will walk away feeling like, they deserve the best, not to settle. Just very happy, joyful feelings.
Yes, absolutely. So I want to dive into the characters a bit, and we'll start with Olivia. I found Olivia to be a very interesting character, and just some background without, going into spoilers, obviously. But I love that we were able to kind of learn more about Olivia through her point of view. She's recently divorced, but she's super ambitious, super focused on her job as an event planner. And she really wants to pull off this wedding really well. Tell our listeners about Olivia, who she is, how they can kind of get to know her in the book.
Of course. So Olivia has recently gotten out of a not very great marriage. She's recently divorced, has just left her small hometown and moved to Seattle to pursue her dreams, planning weddings, planning events, making other people's dreams a reality. And she does have a tendency to put others' wants and needs ahead of her own. So in Count Your Lucky Stars, she's kind of, pursuing her own happiness. And when she crosses paths with Margot, Margot helps her put herself first, realize that her own happiness is also worth pursuing. I really wanted to depict a character who was in their late 20s and had already been married. I don't think that in that age group we have very many divorced heroines in romance. So I definitely wanted to depict that kind of different character that is not opposite of Margot, but Margot has not had very many relationships. So I love Olivia. She definitely puts others first, and I was happy to see her by the end of the book, without spoilers, pursue her own happiness.
Yes, absolutely. I loved Olivia as well. Also in this book, the book also centers Margot. Margot kind of feels like the odd one in her group of friends, and despite her friends' best efforts, she remains single. I want to say happily single. So for me, it was also nice to kind of see what makes Margot tick, because I remember meeting Margot back in Written in the Stars. So if you don't mind, just share a bit about Margot as well.
Yeah, so Margot runs a successful social media astrology account with her best friend, Elle, and they have met another character, Brendan, who runs a successful dating app, and they kind of work with him on that dating app, adding an astrology component to the matching process. So she feels very settled in her career and very settled with her group of friends. And she's not a grump, and she's not necessarily love averse, but she doesn't feel like meeting that special someone romantically is a priority for her. And as all of her friends start to couple up and take steps into the next chapter of their lives, she starts to feel like she might be left behind. That's a fear of hers, that she's going to become less important and less a key part of her friends' lives. And that's something that she grapples with, because friendships are so important to her. And without being too spoilery, she has lost somebody very important to her in the past, Olivia. And so she knows what that is like. And so that fear is kind of coming to the surface as she's planning this wedding. And she doesn't really hold any of her relationships, be they familial or platonic or romantic, above another, and she worries that her friends do. So this is kind of like a pressure cooker for her, planning this wedding, and then Olivia coming back into her life and bringing these feelings and these fears to the surface. That's really where Margot is at in the book.
Right, absolutely. So again, like you mentioned, this is the last book in your interconnected series. We also had cameos, let me just say, from other characters in the book. So for readers who've read, Written in the Stars, you'll also meet Elle and Brandon. That was very nice to kind of see them again. I also loved seeing Darcy.
Yes.
Darcy and Elle. Yeah. So Darcy, Elle, Brandon, it was just great having them make cameos in the book. So I was really pleased with that. But now I want you to kind of step back a bit and looking at Count Your Lucky Stars, but then also, the series as a whole. Who would you say is your favorite character, first in this book and then in the series?
Oh, that's so tough. I get this question so often, and it's like kind of choosing between children. I don't have children, but I imagine it would be like choosing children. I have a soft spot for Margot, both in this book and in the series as a whole. She kind of has this prickly exterior, but she has this gooey inside, and she is so loyal. And I think a lot of her fears, they resonate with me, and I think they will resonate with readers who are in their mid to late 20s, early 30s. So probably Margot, but I love all my characters.
Awesome. I love it. Okay, so I kind of want to get into your inspiration for this novel and telling this story. I also love the fact that there was a late 20-something divorcee storyline, because you're right, it's not something we see often in romance, but I was very pleased with that in the novel. But what inspired you to write Count Your Lucky Stars? Like, what was the spark? I know, it's a part of a series, but what specifically gave you the idea for this novel? And then, if you don't mind, the series as a whole.
Sure. So with this book, I always wanted to give Margot a solid reason for being a little, again, not love averse, but just a little wary when it comes to love. And I felt like maybe having something in her past that tied into her extreme loyalty and her fear of being left behind would kind of explain that. And then I do have a soft spot as a whole for second chance romances. I love rom-coms that show a person being the right person for somebody, but it being, at the wrong place, wrong time. So I wanted to really hit on that to show that Olivia and Margot were right for each other, just not when they had their first go around. So that was my inspiration for Count Your Lucky Stars. For the series as a whole, it really all stemmed from wanting to write an opposites attract romance with Elle and Darcy in Written in the Stars. And I knew that I wanted one character to be extremely analytical. And so I settled on Darcy being an actuary. And then I was trying to think of what is a profession that is the opposite of an actuary, somebody who looks at numbers. And I ended up coming up with Elle, someone who is an astrologer who looks to the stars to make their plans and for advice and for, inward introspection. And so the idea kind of grew from there, and I created the social media app that she runs with Margot. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there.
Right. Okay, awesome. So getting into your writing life a bit more, how long did it take for you to write Count Your Lucky Stars and just your books in general? What's your general turnaround time?
Ooh, I'm a very fast drafter, very fast. I don't really love the drafting process, so I like to get the words on the page as quickly as possible. So I wrote Count Your Lucky Stars in about a month and a half, and then I had an extensive revision process, another draft that took me about 4 weeks. So that was, roughly how long it took. But I'm also a plotter. So I spend a long time outlining before I ever put words on the page. I would say the outlining and plotting process takes me the longest. That'll take me a month or 2 months to make sure that I've got all my ducks in a row. So then I can just kind of dive into drafting and get it all out as quickly as possible.
Okay. And what would you say is the most difficult part of your creative process?
Definitely the drafting, the staring at a blank page and starting every day with a new scene is a struggle for me, just because I want to be able to revise. I feel like the magic happens for me in revisions when I can get another set of eyes on my draft and get some feedback and really fine tune. I always say that for me, drafting is like shoveling sand into a sandbox, but revising is like making sandcastles. That's when I can really bring the scenes and the characters to life.
Right. Okay. So, as mentioned in my intro, and just as we've been talking and going along here, your first book was Written in the Stars, you followed up with Hang the Moon, and now we're here with Count Your Lucky Stars. How was it similar to, but also different, writing each book? Were there similarities? Were there differences?
I would say with Written in the Stars, everything was so very fresh. I, was working from scratch with these characters, bringing them to life. And with each subsequent book, I had, a framework already in place with the previous book, which was both helpful, but also a bit of a challenge. I had to make sure that the characters were staying true to character in each book. I couldn't have them completely go off the rails and exhibit new characteristics just so that it would fit the plot. So I appreciated having the framework for each book, but it was also making sure that I had dates in order and I didn't contradict myself. So I definitely had an extensive notebook of dates and characteristics that nobody all of a sudden wound up with different hair or eye colors between books. So that was a little bit of a challenge between my process of writing Written in the Stars just being so fresh and each subsequent book building off of the others.
Right. Awesome. And if you could tell your younger writing self anything, looking back now, 3 books under your belt, what would you tell her?
Oh, I think I would tell my younger writing self that it sounds a little cheesy, but the adage of when one door closes, another opens, or a window opens is very true. So just to keep at it, keep plugging along and, improving your craft and keep writing, keep reading, and whatever is meant to happen will happen in the end as long as you keep putting in that hard work.
Right, absolutely. I mean, on that note, I'm kind of curious now because I know a lot of readers who happen to write as well. World of publishing is like this mystical world, that's so known but unknown at the same time. What was your publishing journey like?
So I wrote my first book, back in 2015, I want to say. And I didn't know really anything about what publishing was like. I didn't know what revising was like. I didn't have a writing community. I thought that, I would just send a few queries out to agents and that somebody would want to publish my book. And so I ended up learning as I went the process of, getting an agent and revising. After that first book, which was a complete and total mess, did not pan out, I discovered the writing community on Twitter. I discovered the Pitch Wars community. Pitch Wars is a mentorship program for readers and writers who don't know, where you get paired with an author who is further ahead in their journey than you are, and they help revise a book with you for an agent showcase. And so I applied to Pitch Wars. I worked with 2 lovely mentors who helped me revise a book. I did not get my agent from the showcase in that contest, but I went on to query a book, and querying, for readers who don't know, is submitting a short letter hook about your book to agents, literary agents. I ended up getting my agent through cold querying, my lovely agent, Sarah Younger. I revised that book with her. It didn't sell. I wrote a proposal for Written in the Stars, and we went on submission, which means that she took my proposal to editors at the publishing houses. And then the Written in the Stars series sold to Avon HarperCollins. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. Kind of a few false starts in there, but all learning opportunities.
All learning opportunities. I love that. I love that. Okay, so before we jump into your reading life, I have to pry. I think I saw a little, something out there in the universe, but we want to know, I'd love to hear from you. Are you working on any other projects? Are there any books out there? I mean, this is the end of a series, but I mean, what can we look forward to from you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I am working on something new that I'm very excited about. I recently sold 3 more books to Avon, 3 more queer rom-coms. This time they are all standalones completely, so it's not going to be another series. They won't have overlapping characters. And the first is called The Fiancé Farce, and it is a sapphic marriage of convenience romance between a shy indie bookstore owner who is looking to save her bookstore and a romance cover model who is also a newspaper heiress who is in need of a spouse in order to inherit her family business. And I'm very excited about it. I hope it's going to be very funny. I'm having a blast writing it.
Well, you got me hooked at bookseller in love. So I'm excited. I can't wait. And yay for 3 more books. See, I came in here knowing, okay, there's 1 book coming. I didn't realize it was a 3-book deal. So I'm excited. So there are tons of books in our future. Yay.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, Alexandria, let's get into your reading life. I know we're here to talk about Count Your Lucky Stars, but we want to know, what are you reading? Share with our listeners the last book or books that you finished reading that you'd now recommend.
I recently read a book called Love at First Sight by Anna E. Collins. It came out in January. I loved it so much. It's about an interior designer who teams up with an architect to build a spite house, Airbnb, a very tall house to spite her ex, her cheating ex, and that was a blast. And I also read recently Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner, which is not out yet, but it is going to be out later this year. And it is a sapphic age gap romance. And it was very steamy and very delightful. And I think that readers are really going to love that one.
Yay, awesome. And what book or books are you looking forward to reading in the year ahead?
Oh, so many. I feel like my to-be-read pile just keeps growing. I am very excited for In the Event of Love by Courtney Kay that comes out later this year. Delilah Green Doesn't Care by Ashley Herring Blake comes out on February 22nd, I believe, later this month. Oh gosh, so many others. I read part of I'm So Not Over You by Kosako Jackson. That also comes out later this month. Just so many. My pile is huge.
AKA bookworm problems, reader problems.
Yes.
Just all the problems. But they're good problems to have, and we love them. So no judgments here. All right. So in addition to loving books and just authors and the reading life and everything, we love our local indie bookstores. I ask all the guests on the show. So of course, I'm going to ask you to share with our listeners some of your favorite bookstores.
I have so many. I have to shout out my local indie right now, Tombolo Books in St. Petersburg, Florida. They are an adorable indie bookstore in the heart of St. Pete. They hosted my launch event for Count Your Lucky Stars, and they were a dream to work with. I also love Parnassus Books in Nashville, and I love Third Place Books in Seattle, Washington. They have several locations, and they are all so kind.
Oh, love it. Love it. Thanks for sharing. All right, so kind of bringing things back to Count Your Lucky Stars and just kind of tying everything together here. I mean, I know you've done your job. You've written the book. You've given it to us. We're reading it. I'm loving it. I hope others will love it too. But what are some of the thoughts you're hoping readers might have? How you're hoping they might feel? And also for those readers who've been reading with you from Written in the Stars to Hang the Moon, and now we're here. What thoughts or reactions are you hoping readers might have?
I certainly hope that Count Your Lucky Stars will make readers laugh. I have a few funny scenes in the book that made me laugh when I was writing them and then revising them. So I definitely hope that it will bring readers a lot of laughter, a lot of joy. I also hope that readers walk away with kind of the lessons that Margot and Olivia walked away with, the importance of friendships and romantic relationships, that, you shouldn't pit those relationships against each other. I also hope that readers, walk away with an understanding of their own self-worth, that their happiness is worth pursuing. I think that we all have a tendency to kind of get caught up in our day-to-day lives, and what we want matters. And waiting for that special someone is also definitely a worthwhile plan.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm just super excited again. The big key points, it's a second chance romance, opposites attract. I mean, just even the fact that it was 10 years between when they stopped talking to when they got back together. I mean, I'm just here for it. I'm a big fan of second chance romances. I'm going to miss Written in the Stars, though.
Yes, as will I. I love these characters so much. And I don't know, I might have to write like a little second epilogue at some point, just because it is so hard to say goodbye to all of these characters.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then just send it out to email subscribers.
Yes, definitely.
I would love that. Alexandria, thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking with me. It was just an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning in to The Reader's Couch. You can find out more about the show and submit your questions for our guest by visiting our website, thereaderscouch.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Couch Is Booked. If you like the show, please subscribe, share, and take a few seconds to leave a rating and review. Next week, I'll be back with new guests, more books, and some fun games we can play. But until then, stay lounging, stay reading, and whenever you're in doubt, go straight to your local bookstore or library. Thanks for listening, and happy reading.